this thing about the primary healthcare trust, and is it the NHS has been broken up essentially? I don't know, with it's about local funding, area funding. Will be like given a lump of money. I wonder if you could explain that.
So previously, we've had something called the pool treatment budget. That is a government pot of about £400 million that we have. We've applied a formula to that that's based on deprivation, performance and things like that, and then given it out to local areas for them to use for drug treatment. And there have been other bits of money that have been added to that as well. There's been the Home Office DIP money and other budgets. So there's been that central money clearly identified for drug treatment that we have protected on your behalf. Now, in the future, from April, the Department of Health have put all the money that was spent on drug and alcohol together and added that to something they've called the ring-fenced public health grant. So the drug and alcohol money is about a third of that, just a little bit over a third. And local authorities are going to get their grant based on a different formula, and they will. The message is that they are allowed to spend that on what they want in terms of public health. It has to be spent on public health issues, but they won't get it in a way that says this is your drugs money and this is your alcohol money. However, we all know what they spend on drugs and alcohol, so we will expect them to either spend that much or spend more if they need it, or spend less if they can demonstrate that they can fulfill the needs of their drug-using population by spending less. There's this agenda called localism, and it's really high on this coalition government's agenda. And localism really means push down the decision-making to local people. So this is all about giving local authorities and elected members the right to decide what they spend their money on locally. There are risks in that, because they may choose to spend it on things that us in this room, don't see as such a high priority. But there are bits of Public Health England that will be looking out for the drug and alcohol agenda. There are bits of government that are looking out for the drug and alcohol agenda. There's an interministerial group on drugs, an unlikely collection of MPs, if ever there was one, and they are very interested in this agenda. So there's quite a lot of scrutiny of this.
Appreciate all of the developments over the past 10 years, all of the positives. That's taken as read. At the moment, as an organisation, we're snowed under to the point of being dysfunctional, I guess. We cannot cope with the demand for people being forced out of services. Scripts being reduced without consent. We've seen services actually made to be, in some areas, a very, very uncomfortable place for people to be. And there's a lot of fear out there around that. We've seen some very vulnerable people moved out of drug treatment because they're easier targets to achieve, I guess, the figures that you're going to rely on to actually give you the information you need to pursue things. There are even commissioners out there that are putting stuff out with requests or demands for a 50% reduction in the treatment population year on year. Their rationale for doing is NTA and government policy, which we know it's not. We're having workers come to us for support because they're being asked to do things that they know are unconscionable. That's not to say that there's still a lot of good practice out there is, but there are some very, very dangerous practices going on at the moment, and we're currently pursuing at least one trust for medical negligence at this point in time. We're seeing an increase in people having to rely on street gear again. We're seeing an increase in people having to make a decision between whether they keep a job or go to a far distant pharmacy that they've now been allocated and put on daily pickup for absolutely no reason, with no concentration of doubt. So I guess I have three different questions at the moment.
There are elements of government, obviously, who are interested in bits of things like time limits, but you look at the Strang report. The Strang report was commissioned to put this right. It says it all in there, but I mean, you give us where this is happening, and we will do something about it.
What you did mention is the family and friends of problem drinkers. I belong to Al-Anon, and you only need one problem drinker, one alcoholic, and the effect is horrendous. I'm wondering what sort of request you get in your surgery and around the primary care for those people who are affected.
Families and friends are vitally important, and that's we tend to see it in two ways. One where we have a user of whatever substance, and I find that alcohol and illicit drugs and even prescription medicines, it doesn't seem to make that much difference to the stress it puts the family under. But we get ones where people are still engaged with the family member and looking for support around that and what's the best treatment options they can find for that person. They often come with an understanding out of the media rather than the practicalities and experience, and the Daily Mail view of what a user isn't always helpful. And also other times where you get family members who I don't have the person who's using substances, and they're some way estranged or living elsewhere, but they're still suffering and they're still stressed and they've still got anxiety and depression and having to deal with them. I think one of the areas that does fall down is I don't have readily available support services to refer most of them to. And a lot of them are being referred to the local improving psychological health therapies, IAPT, and so on. And actually, I think being able to link them in with peer groups who have a greater understanding of the problem would improve things.
What provisions being made for the ageing drug population, many of whom have completed treatment and left treatment, but who still have problems relating to their drugs?
If you're registered with me, I don't discharge you. You stay with me until you either move away or die, or I retire, hopefully.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, do.
There are going to be things. Each local authority is going to have something called a health and well-being board, and your question is a really good fit with. I don't know where you come from. Right, Norfolk. What is the Norfolk Health and Wellbeing Board doing to make sure that there is a link between their specialist drug treatment services and their GPs, who will be within what's called the CCGs, clinical commissioning groups? They need to make sure there's a join up so that people, just like you're talking about, your friend doesn't find that he's left treatment because his really severe problems been dealt with, but he's got all these other needs, and that you need to make sure that health and wellbeing boards listen to issues like that.
Hey!